Hey guys, thank you very much for joining. Hey, tripods in shot, awesome. Check 1 2 3. Can you guys hear me? I'm moving stuff around so sexy girls can see stuff. Okay, I'll start. Okay, I've got one response. It sounds like the sound is coming through. Okay, cool. Thanks guys. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I hope you're all well. Hey Andy, how did the move go, mate? All good? Okay, good stuff. I sorry I was a little bit late. I actually wrote out. I've got so much to say. Oh, good. Hey Warwick. I actually wrote out a whole half page of notes here on, cheat notes to talk about. RJ, Merry Christmas. Adam, Peanut Gallery in the house. Hey Ryan, good morning, mate. Must be just crazy at the shop over Christmas. Absolutely crazy, I could imagine. So yeah, I wrote out a bunch of notes here because remember that day when I said I'm going to be taking care of Tabs on her birthday, giving her a full day of dad attention, and I said I won't be accessing. Hey John, I said I won't be accessing the internet. Won't be able to reply to PMs for a day or two. And of course, that was the day that I got a record number of private messages across a couple of platforms. And most of the guys responsible for that are here now. It was you guys who did it to me. You guys are supposed to be my more core group of fans who are supposed to take care of me. But okay, but I understand. You missed the link, so you thought, oh, okay, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I'll PM the guy. So I came back after the holiday, and oh man. But what happened? The guys are writing comments, don't blame us. Fair enough. That's good, it's good. Silence would be much worse. It would be like I wasn't missed, right? So a couple of the comments that came up and questions, this has been asked repeatedly, and it was about using spray cans. And Warwick, Agent Orange here, he asked a good one too. This question has come up a good number of times, and it was to do with the sea pig finish. And so I thought I could hit this topic today. Why to use spray cans? Because aren't they only for noobs? I know different products in our little modeling world have images, don't they? So the airbrush is, once you've got an airbrush, obviously you're pro, right? You don't need anything else. Heaven forbid you go back and hand paint something. What's wrong with you? I seriously get those sort of comments all the time. It's quite funny. The same with rattle cans. Why would you use rattle cans if you've got a really kick-ass airbrush? And I'll tell you some reasons. Just like any other tradespeople or artists, the different tools for different jobs. I mean, they all have their place in your quiver, your arsenal of. Got to be careful with my broadening Australian accent. I've got to be careful with using that word, haven't I? So I've been a big fan of rattle cans forever now, and for good and for bad, I was able to get these just down the road from me in Japan, and I think I was paying about 300 yen, 320 yen. So the good I'm saying is, it's kind of like a gateway thing. I was able to pick these up very cheaply and get good with them. When things are cheaper, I'm not allowed to read that comment out. Means to an end. Actually, Trog had the winning comment, but I can't say that out loud, and my kid's listening not far away from me. But yeah, where did that comment come from? That one's gold, isn't it? But Ryan made the very astute observation. It's the means to the ends, and that's exactly right. Sometimes I'll do things for style points. It may appear like that when people say, oh wow, you only hand brush that model, but it's not for style points per se. It's mostly because that's the finish, or that's uh, the completed versions that I was after. So these were very much that kind of thing. They're a means to the ends type of product. Um, Maybe we can make them cool again, but they definitely work and have their place. Now, I'm not saying buy everything in rattle cans by any means. I'm not saying collect like 100 of them. I did go overboard a little bit. When I left Japan, I had to give away quite a few because I bought colors thinking I was going to use them, but they didn't work out as useful. What I'm showing you here are my favorite must-have go-tos. If you only buy a handful of rattle cans, these are the ones I would suggest you get. A couple are interchangeable, but these colors are bomber. I've never wished I didn't have them, and when they run out, I always have to go get them again. So they're really, really good. Um, Practicing with them is important, but I know there's this guy who does videos on them, so that can be helpful and useful as well. Now the number one thing that works for cans is speed. Now the speed, I'm going to read my cheat notes. I actually went into a bit of work today. Startup. The startup with cans is obvious. You just crack the lid, a bit of a swirl, and away you go. If you're somewhere cold and you need to put it into hot water, be careful, but that works really well. Volume of paint that comes out is super useful. If you're base coating something, I much as I enjoy airbrushing, especially airbrushing that ammo primer. That's so wow, isn't it? But there is also something wow to giving a base coat or a primer with something like Tamiya Gloss Black. It just goes on super quick, and it's pretty idiot proof. I quite like that. The fast drying cure of these is excellent. I mean, these are very hot chemically, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Sometimes I won't ever spray them over other kinds of paints except this guy. But these ones, they're very hot, right? So they set up very quickly. They stick to almost any kind of plastic or resin, and you can paint over them basically like, I'm in summer now. It's very hot. Middle of the day, it's quite dry. Literally, as soon as I put these down, I could pull out the next set of paints and go over them, and it would be pretty okay. But really, they just take a few minutes to dry. Even in winter, we're not even talking hours. That's one thing with the acrylic primers, say Ammo One Shot, for example. You do need to leave it, they say 24 hours overnight or so, but no, idiot proof. Ryan just linked up another hashtag for me. But really, rattle cans, spray bombs are idiot proof. When I'm tired or I have to do something like that, I don't have to think through the steps of setting up the airbrush or doing those things. Just boom, I'm up. Actually, so I preempted my next topic, was quick for boring stuff. Much as when you first get your airbrush and everything's really cool and fun with it, priming and base paints for airbrushing, it's not as fun as it always is once you've done it 100 times, right? These get us, I'm all about skipping the boring parts of modeling and getting into the exciting fun stuff, which would be airbrushing the main colors or camo patterns or something on afterwards. These can help fast forward those boring parts. Cleanup is pretty good too with these. I quite like, actual demonstration. And I'm done. There's a part of Lazy Link that just loves that. Hey, morning, Kenneth. Thanks for joining us, mate. Hope you're well today. Now, performance. One of the reasons I'll use some of these guys is for performance issues. Not my lack of performance, it's because these perform really well. How many times have I've had people asking me, how do I hand paint white acrylics onto models? And I'm going to put this out there. Don't. Unless you have to, for some reason, unless someone's got a gun to your head, don't. Yeah. Oh, Ryan, there's another hashtag for us, performance issues. We use rattle cans for performance issues. Oh man, that's funny. So yeah, I had it recently, and yeah, shit. Ah man, dude, we've got to do a show. So Ryan's talking about MG. I'm not going to talk about MG. We've got to bring Ryan on the show. Ryan has to tell you about MG. But I will say, when I was in Nakano, there was a poster up in the post office there, warning people about MG near Nakano Broadway. That's all I'm going to say. Around Mandarake. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I've had it recently. Can you show me how to hand paint things like water based or vinyl, say like the dropper paints, white and yellow. I did actually do that on my polar bear for a camouflage pattern, but it's a very different type of thing. If you're after a smooth, clean white surface, one of the best things to do by volume is use one of these. And you can see that's why when I did my ghost keel, that's what I used, this one. Black is also really good. As a now, for a cleanliness thing, for priming, these are very difficult to beat. Now, I know they're not a primer per se. They don't have primer written on the can. The only difference with primers is often primers and surfaces. I might be wrong, but my idiot understanding is that surfaces, they have a that filler component in them. It's like a talc-like thing that helps to add a bit more thickness and help to fill in some imperfections on a model, make it stick a little bit better if you've got mixed media. So if you've got a kit that has photo etch, resin parts, things like that attached to it, a surfacer works better and it makes everything a similar surface. I just got a question came through. Kenneth asked, are they sandable? And yes, all lacquer paints that I've experienced myself are sandable. Now the difference with these and say a surfacer is that all paints, it's been explained to me by the Mr. Color dudes, all paints are created gloss and then they add stuff to them to make them semi. That's why I wish they did this one. This one's a semi-gloss. But semi-gloss is an acceptable one for me. One of the reasons I like to use gloss is that it's just pure paint. It doesn't have any of that filler component in it. So you can put a thickness of paint on, but it won't obscure details as much as paints with the filler in it. I did a tour when I was in Japan. I did a tour with the Maschinen Krieger guys. We went to a factory that was painting little cars, little die-cast cars. You know, the ones, say, matchbox-sized cars. And they were dipping. They weren't spraying it on. They dipped the little cars into the paint and let them drip off. And it was lacquer paint. And that just blew my mind, that they could apply it that thickly and it would still settle down because it was gloss paint. And you've seen how they turn out. They looked fantastic. That absolutely blew me away. So when I want to put on a thickness of paint, in the art world it can be called a ground. So have you seen people, they'll put down a bunch of oil paint on an oil painting, if you go Bob Ross style. Put down a thickness of paint so that you can work things on top of it. That's what I say a gloss black would be very useful for. It like protects the model, it stops you from going all the way down to base plastic. Okay, the downsides of these things is perception. When you show these, and this is something that's been a really fun part of my little YouTube journey, I like showing products that are usually used by beginners. So there's the perception of noobness attached to spray cans. I guess because they're easy to get into. And that's the whole thing that interests me. It intrigues me with airbrushes. Airbrushes are attached to pros, but you guys will know what I mean. You can see some very spectacular rattle can finishes versus poor airbrush finishes. So it's definitely not the tools that make us pro. But that's one of the things. They suffer from a bit of an image thing. There's the perception of cost. I know I'm going to cop some flack for this one, but yes, they are expensive to buy point for point. You only get, and it's like buying specs, you know when you buy specs for cameras or computer equipment or something, when you read on it that you're only getting, how many what is it, 100 mils. You're only getting 100 mils of paint for, in Oz, I think these go for about $14, $15. So if you work it out, price per mil of paint, it's insane to buy them like this. And you know, if I was just shown that data, I would agree. But they come with so much more. It's not just 100 mils of paint, it's 100 mils with its own propellant, the quick startup, all of those things that we listed before are actually factored into that price. And how many models have we got per use of this? So it's a one-off purchase. I've now made, what is it, 2 or 3 models with this one this year. Still half full. This one, I've been using this one all year, right? This has gone on every model. I haven't used any other types. It still feels more than halfway full. That's a whole year of modeling, and I've made quite a few, right? The guys are asking the decant questions. You can. I'd only decant them if I had to. I mean, that is burning money, in my opinion. But if you have to do it and you really want to, by all means, I'd go right ahead. But yeah, this stuff. Now, one of the things is with this really needs its own separate talk show. This is, by far, I tested all of them because I was going through so much clear when I lived in Japan working on loads and loads of models. This is easily the best one by far. It costs a lot, but it's totally worth it. I can't say how much I love this compared to the other ones. The next closest one was Top Coat, but it takes a long time to dry. I've airbrushed on super clear. It's still pretty good, but this one is about speeding through those kind of semi-boring, no-skill parts of the model making process that you just need to clear coat and move on quickly. I don't want to be sitting around going through setting up, cleaning up and all of those things, so I just put this on, 2 or 3 minutes. I just do it out on my balcony. I'm quickly back in, straight into production. So that's another thing that's really good for. But the cost, don't buy lots of colors. I know, I'm telling you not to buy stuff. These are the type of colors I'll use. White, which is really good. Mahogany for a rust type base. Black is useful for almost everything. And I'm going to start putting this one in. I used Tamiya German Grey in the past, but I really like this MS Grey type color. You can see I haven't opened it yet, but I want to test that out on a Gunpla finish as a way to get started. So I would just recommend getting these ones. If you had to cut some out, if you're not doing any white and you just wanted to try it with one, I'd go with black. If you're doing a lot of Maschinen Krieger, the mahogany is really good. If only they did propeller, their propeller color in a can, I would love them even more. And this, if you only get one, get the semi-gloss. It's useful for everything. Then if you get a second one, get flat. The gloss is good, but it's very, very strong. I don't feel that I ever need that. If I use, even for decal processes, etc., this one is plenty. Last downside that I know of is Ryan's mentioning the UV cut one. I'll be totally honest, I don't know how different it is. Ryan's saying it's the best one. He gets a lot of product through his hands, and Ryan's also an expert on radio control cars. And I think that's one of the things that they developed that one for, so that the spray can jobs on those buggies wouldn't yellow out in the sun. But so I'll test that. I'll get some of that and test it off. I've never bought it before because in the Tokyo hobby shops when I was getting this stuff, and this still came with me. I'm using stuff. I've lived in Australia for 18 months now. I'm still using this same can. It's brilliant. But I'll get the UV cut one next time and compare it. I never did it, but you know, UV in Australia is a bit of a thing. So I'll upgrade and test that one out next time. Thanks for the heads up, Brian. The last negative thing about these, so you've got perception, you've got cost, storage. That's one of the other reasons I'll say don't buy too many of these things. What I had this huge shoebox full of these bloody things, and really upset my wife, understandably, because they take up space for what you get. If you're only using them every now and then, don't buy too many. I know. I'm like the world's worst shill, aren't I? Don't buy stuff. So, but I understand you guys are all on budgets. I don't want you to spend stuff on, spend too much on stuff you don't need when you could just give me that money instead. You see what I did just now? That worked. Yeah, but don't buy too many. This is my core set that I love and use all the time. So that's what I'm recommending. Andy with the hashtags. She'll fail. Dude, I totally want a t-shirt with that. Paint on plastic, she'll fail. That's gold. Okay, now in use, I'll quickly wrap this up. In use, these things are good for stuff and not good for things. This is one other thing I need to put this out there. It's not just a blanket rattle cans are good for everything. There are some things that they're just not good for. So first thing is complex schemes. If you're doing, just say you're doing a Gunpla with, what do the Gunpla guys call it? Like color separation for all the different colored panels? No, spray and pray. Ryan just dropped the spray and pray hashtag. That's a total MG moment, mate. Spray and pray. Um, Gold. If you're doing something that has multiple colors on the same model, I would not use rattle cans. You could if you were very good with them, but masking with these things, there's just quite a bit of, because of the volume of paint that comes out. So you can see the corollary to that, of course, is that these are perfect for monocolor schemes. If you're doing something like that ghost keel I did, perfect for that. But complex schemes, not really. Things requiring a lot of masking, again, not really, because of the thickness of paint that can come out, it comes out so quickly, right? When you're doing the masking on them. Now, what do we call it in English? Can you guys help me out? In Japanese, when you run your masking tape across something and you spray on it and it leaves that little raised edge, it was actually just called dan. Dan ga nokoru. Ichidan ga nokoteru. I don't know how to say that in English. It's like a little step or a level. I've not seen that on forums discussed, but depending on the scale of your model, you could make that work. Paint lip. Interesting. Yeah? Okay. Denols just said, Ned Lols. Oh, that's a funny one. Mention might be called paint lip. But yeah, if you guys can help me out with that, especially in the comments below, help to educate our community. Sometimes I'm a bit off with English. Apologies for that. Depending on the scale of your model though, if it's a very large model, that little paint lip edge, that raised bit thingy, that's what I was going with, Agent Orange. That can work for you. It can be like a detail, but that's something that can happen with these on a smaller model or a thin model like Gunpla. Just a heads up on that one, be careful. Smallish models, say Warhammer, I would be careful with these. The Warhammer suit that I did, it can work because that's a good medium-sized sort of model, but some of the smaller ones, I would be careful just because of the volume of paint that can come out. If I was base coating a bunch of minis, I'm pretty handy with these things, but just a heads up, be careful with that. I don't super recommend it. Now what they're really good for is monocolor schemes, one, priming, doing those ground coats that I was mentioning, if you need to develop a thickness of paint. I'm specifically going to show this on my Pinkman by Calamity, and I'll be using a base ground of black and mahogany for rust highlights on that. And because it's a garage kit, that will benefit from a very thick base layer of paint. I know that sounds odd in the model world, thick paint, but you watch, thick paint on that guy will look really cool. Yep, large models. Did some of you guys, I need to reshare it because some of the stuff, it got shared over in Gunpla Builders Australia. There was a photo with me with a very large model. I can't even fit it in here. My hands are, I can't get them wide enough. It was a 1/20th scale Lunar Diver. Hobbyco has this model. You need to grab one of them. It's one of the coolest ones when it's finished. And the guys in Melbourne, Hearns, should be able to get it too. It's called a Lunar Diver by Hasegawa. It's in 135 scale, which is a very usable sort of scale. It is actually, it would fit in here. It's about my hands. It's like about that long. It's very cool. And it's a perfect canvas type model for painting schemes. I was gonna, if Christopher Tsang is watching this, his marine scheme that he did on the GANs would be perfect for that type of model. I did a 1/20th scale version, which was, I can't show you in here. My hands, this massive thing. It's about as big as a real stingray. And I did it all in paint cans because airbrushing would have just taken too long. It was so big and it required a thickness of paint. So very large models, perfect for that. I'll try to copy the photos over. There was a bunch of photos went in GBA. I'll try to put them back over to PoP, the Paint on Plastic community, so you guys could see that. That's it, thickness of paint. I covered them all. Good stuff. So that's my take on them. I really do think, as a means to the ends, thank you, Ryan, these things do really have a space in your modeling arsenal. Don't go all out on them. I still think for a balanced approach is key to doing, well, pretty much anything, right? But for modeling, some paintbrushes, a few rattle cans, and a good airbrush setup, all working together will give you the best finishes. You don't have to go big on all three of them, but having a little bit of each one will leave you very prepared for working across any kind of model that you get excited to build. And we'll work through that in the next coming year. I'll be doing different types of models and finishes, and I'll work these things in again, as well as using that awesome Sparmax airbrush setup that I've got, and I'll be hand painting a bunch of stuff too. Okay, awesome. I can't go too long today. We've got Christmas shopping to do. The girls are all excited. They're getting really into the Australian Christmas. Hey, Doody, he's just joined. I was just wrapping up, mate. Why doesn't Tamiya primers... Oh no, the Tamiya primers definitely work. So I've got a couple of questions coming in. Craig has asked, why don't Tamiya primers work on small models? I'm very sorry if I said something that sounded like that. Tamiya primers work very well on small models, but that's one of the reasons. I'll just see if my wife could grab one for me. I'm sorry I'm live and I'm not present. I'm just going to run over and grab that can to show you the difference. Sorry, can you talk to them, Kat?
What?
No, I'm good, I'm good. Hey, no showed my own live show. So, these ones, now I didn't show this because this is, yeah, I know. It's to stop ninjas stealing my stuff. I leave it squeaky. It's part of the show, the squeaky hinges. If you guys go over to Kyoto and you see, and you go to, it's called Nijojo. I think in English it's like called the second castle, or it's the old royal castle there, and they've got something. The translation is called the Nightingale floor, but it makes that sound and it reminds me of it, so I get all happy. Anyway, and I did try to ninja across that floor, an epic fail. This thing. So these and these are different creatures. Maybe we can talk about that in another show. But for small miniatures, good. Actually, this is brilliant for everything. And it's a metal primer too. So, given the choice, you've noticed I go with Mr. Hobby stuff a lot and Gaia Notes. But for primers, this guy. I've used them all. I reckon this one is the best by far. This is perfect for small miniatures. These ones are color coats that also work as primers. This is a primer, a surface primer, that works as a surfacer. You could use it as a color, but I don't. So, good for small, not as good for small. This one mats down, seals down very well onto surfaces, and it prepares them for further steps. These ones are color coats that do work. Yes, release agent. Ryan's made a very astute comment, and I'll get to that. When I work on, say, the Pinkman, ones that have resin or different products that have release agent on them. We'll need to wash them. And I'll go through some steps and show you how to. It's basically degreasing them because they put the silicone mold release on some products like that, figures and stuff. These will have trouble sticking to it. But this is one of the better ones that sticks. So yeah, Doherty's saying there. I hope I'm pronouncing your name, bro. I know you by 3 different names. So I wasn't sure which one to use. So yeah, I just want to give you a heads up on that one. Hey, if you want to know a really bad one, I'm going to do a separate video on fail. Now, this is probably a fantastic product for certain uses. Certain uses. What I wanted it to be, however, now this is always kind of really funny, right? It's not that products are bad when we test them out. It's just that sometimes they don't do what we want. And this one is guilty of that. It totally didn't do what I wanted. Hey, are you ready for the rusty hinge thing again? The girls are cracking up. So there's no ninjas getting in here. So I wanted to use that one for this. Actually, it looks okay on camera, I guess. Ninja hinges, it's a thing. I wanted to use it for this one. This is going to be part of my groundwork for the polar bear. And coming into the next year, I want to show more groundwork finishes, because I think groundwork is a really cool way to finish and display a model. And I was going to get into some easy ways to do that with you. This one though, it's taken forever, and until now, I think I sprayed this stuff like 3 weeks ago, and it's, you know, I think it's finally, and it's hot here. It's hot. So it's prime, you know, drying conditions for it. But it was fingernailing. Do you guys call it fingernailing too? You know, you test it, touch it with the fingernail. It was fingernailing like 2 weeks into it. It's like, you know, this stuff would have been dry within an hour or less. So I'm going to have to sand it back, because I kept testing it. Do you guys do that too? You keep testing it, and then it's ruined. So I'm going to have to sand it back and then recover. I might do a combination of maybe spray can and airbrush too, and show you some cool stuff with it. But definitely, this will be cool, and I'll show you on my polar bear. But for this one, in terms of what I wanted, it was an epic fail, because it just took too long. I can't, you know, what's that meme getting around? I ain't got time for that. I haven't got time to wait 3 weeks for this stuff to dry. You know, I need stuff ready now. So I'll come back to that one. Yeah, light texture, not a month-long dry time. Yeah, I know. So this stuff, luckily it was cheap. I got this at the local hardware store. It was 12 bucks, but it's still 12 bucks that I probably shouldn't have spent. I should have spent it on something else. So definitely, yeah, if your production schedule, you need it, you could maybe use it. But apparently, so I shared this on the other social media, right? Ryan's just commenting. He knew I'd be in trouble. It looked really good. I mean, it's got 2 times, right? 2X Ultra Cover, Paint Plus Primer. Gloss Black also bonds to plastic. Hey, it puts paint on plastic. How wrong could I go? Wood, metal, and more. Well, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't go quick enough for me. So, yes, I'm saying I could have spent that on a sandwich. Man, that could have bought a nice, I could have got Mossburger for this. I could have got Wagyu Mossburger with extra bacon. Anyway, so long as I'm happy to share my fails, so that you guys don't have to suffer the same fate. Wow, it sounds like there's a bunch of excited ladies going past. So I'll leave that one. That's 2 bottles of protein. Yeah, I know. So they're my fails. I hope that one helps you guys out. I'll show you some of the recovery steps for this, because, you know, I made this, and I'll recover it, and then I'll use that, and that's what I'll be displaying my polar bear on. Okay. Thanks, guys. I think that's enough on rattle cans, spray cans for today. I need to wrap it up there. I'll jump on Discord just for a quick chat, see how everybody's doing. Wish you Merry Christmas, and I guess we'll be back again next week. Hope you guys are all enjoying your time off and getting some model making done. Okay, but thanks a lot, guys. Remember, get all this stuff. I think these are, you could get this one at your local hardware store, but like I'm saying, yeah. But run into your local hobby shops and get these ones. And if they don't have it, ask for it. Say, I want to buy this. Because you need to be able to get it locally. Relying on getting stuff sent in, if it's not a strong logistics chain, that's how the military operates. You've got to have stuff easily to get into your hands to perform your missions. That's what having this stuff is about, and that's why you need local hobby shops. At first I was a little bit, confused when I came to Australia until I found the awesome Hobbyco people, because I was like, how am I going to get this stuff into my hands so that I can crank out models? So, local hobby shops say, dudes, get this stuff. And once we take over the internet, everything will be good. Okay, thanks guys. Well, Merry Christmas. I probably won't be online tomorrow. But next week we'll be finishing up the polar bear, and I'll be sharing that. And we're back next Sunday will be just before New Year's, so that'll be the last show of the year. But thank you very much everybody for tuning in. Chuck me a few more thumbs up on the show. Make sure you're subscribed if you're just coming in for the first time. And we'll have we'll have more stuff for you next week, okay? Cheers guys, thanks. Have a good one. Bye.